Ladies and gentlemen, welcome. Pull up a pew for this extra special emergency edition of the podcast of A Thompsin and Other Disappointments. If you're new to the show, if this is your first time checking it out, welcome. Pour yourself a beer, grab a G&T. For your twice weekly delve, sometimes thrice weekly delve. If there's something interesting going on, you get an emergency pod like this. But yes, your twice weekly delve into the worlds of politics and dystopia and stuff and things. I've recently been away a little bit, but I've come back this week. I've returned after my 3 holidays. Check me out. And what have I come back to? What exactly is going on? I thought we were supposed to be in like summer recess at the moment. I thought it was going to be like a drought of political stories. Like, there's nothing going on in Parliament. They're all on summer holidays, basically. And yet, here we are talking about a reshuffle, which is kind of interesting. It sort of suggests either they're gearing up for a general election. Like, is that actually going to be announced sometime soon? Like, they want to sort of get all their ducks in a row. They want to put their best and brightest, if that's even possible. Get the best of a bad bunch up front and centre. So they look like a government in waiting, if not a government in government. There's a great Marina Hyde article. I'm guessing if you listen to this show, you probably read Marina Hyde as well. There's a great article by her last week or the week before, where she was saying, you know, they talk about the way that the Sunak administration are talking, speaking, doing their interviews, briefing at the moment. It's like they're campaigning for what they would do if they got into power. And it's like you just want to shake them and go, you realise you're already in government, right? You guys are the government. Stop talking about what you would do, or, you know, what you like, why Labour's vision is problematic and they couldn't ever do this, or they say that and they could never follow through with it. Stop talking about what you would do differently to Labour and what you hope to do in the next. Like, you're in fucking Downing Street now. So here's your chance. Just fucking do something. But yeah, that message doesn't appear to have landed anytime soon. And instead, what we're seeing now is, as I say, sort of getting the ducks in a row, gearing up for... Well, I mean, it's either that or they're trying to dominate the news headlines. They're trying to capture the narrative rather than allow the left, the centre-left, your Liberal Democrats, your Labours, to actually get some headlines. It could be that too. Because if you consider, like, in parliamentary recess, there's not much that's going to be announced, is there? They haven't got any exciting new initiatives. Even when it isn't parliamentary recess, they're just a zombie government doing absolutely fuck all. Like, when was the last time you heard Sunak or Braverman or any of them? I mean, Shapps is the sort of rock star of today, isn't he? Like, we'll get on to him in a minute. But when was the last time that you heard them announce an initiative that was actually going to affect change and improve someone's lives, rather than deliberately, intentionally making someone's life harder? You know? When was the last time? I honestly can't remember. Like, for as far back as I can remember now, the Conservative Party, and therefore the government, have operated almost exclusively in this realm of distraction and culture war and tabloid hysteria. You know, it's trans rights this, it's stop the boats that, it's making people's lives harder, broadly speaking. You know, oh, we're going to have to clamp down on these benefit scroungers. Oh, we're going to have to stop these desperate refugees making the trip across the channel. Oh, we're going to have to, blah, blah, you know, it's always making shit harder. It's always pushing back on something. When was the last time they actually said, guys, you are really lucky, all right? I'm about to tell you something really exciting, and trust me, you're welcome. Like, here's my idea. Here's this new exciting initiative. We're going to siphon off $5 billion to make sure that every child in a UK school can actually start their work in the morning with a full tummy and just be bright-haired and bushy-tailed and focused. We're going to make sure every school child has a full school dinner for free. Like, when was the last time they actually did like an improvement in the way things are run? You know? I struggle to think. Anyway, so it's entirely possible that with that in mind, that where you have Keir Starmer, where you have Ed Davey or whoever, and the government are basically on holiday, this is a prime opportunity for the opposition to then step forward and say, all right, okay, well, you know, while the boss is away, let me tell you about what we would do. And so maybe the Tories are not, you know, massive fans of that happening. They don't want to give people, they don't want to give their enemies, their adversaries, any more airtime than is absolutely necessary. And so what they do is they construct these. I mean, we saw it, like a month ago? We saw, what was it, like Stop the Boats Week. Then we saw NHS Week. And then it was something else week. You know, like they tried to sort of mete out these press releases, these stats, to make it look like they're actually doing something, to recapture that narrative. Don't give any breathing space to the opposition. But now we've had all of those, or rather they sort of, you know, gave up on them because I think they realised as much as anyone else did that they haven't really got much to boast about. It's like Sunak sitting his top table down going like, all right, guys, all right. Next week is Immigration Week. Next week is Stop the Boats, Immigration, Home Office Week. What have you got? And Braverman's like, absolutely fucking nothing? What do you mean we've got nothing? We must have done something. No. In fact, you only gave me this job to stand up behind a podium and like every time you get yourself in trouble or people start asking you dodgy questions about, you know, your wife's investments and things that you were supposed to declare but you didn't declare because you inadvertently forgot to declare it. Every time you get yourself in hot water, my job is to stand up there behind a podium, bang my fists and say stuff about, you know, oh, white people haven't got anything to feel guilty about. Say stupid things. I'm just supposed to stand up there at the National Conservative Conference and say utterly moronic, culture war, distractive nonsense. That's my job, and I've done that. That is an achievement. Can I talk about that? No, I'm afraid not, Suella. I need actual, you know, tangible deliveries, specifically around your brief. Have you actually done anything? Have you stopped one boat? No, I haven't. What about the planes? Have you allowed one plane to take off to Rwanda? Also no. Right. Well, Stop the Boats Week, like, Immigration Week is going to be a fucking disaster, isn't it? So let's just abandon that. So, like, obviously that is what happened. They had Immigration Week, they had NHS Week, and, you know, it's all part of this desire to recapture the narrative. And now they've abandoned that for the reasons I've, you know, just touched on. And so now what they're trying to do to recapture this narrative is do the reshuffle to make it look like they're still in charge. They've got ideas and they want to get the best person for the job in the right role. And one of those roles is Secretary of State for Defense. Now, I'm not like, you know, as much as I rant about politics, I'm not a politics grad. I'm not a journalist. I don't know fucking half of what I'm talking about. Like, but my sense is that when you look back at Secretary of States for Defense in the past, my sense is that they usually have some affiliation with this, like, you know, Army or Navy or, you know. Like, I would have thought maybe a Johnny Mercer might have been a shoo-in for this. He's like ex-army. You know, he's reasonably high profile now, if only for making a complete tit out of himself on, like, Question Time and Twitter and, you know, picking fights with Supertansky. having his wife trend on Twitter as Felicity Minge as a result of that, picking a fight. But, you know, I'm not one to pick faults with other people's goals. You know, if that's your goal, fucking great. You've achieved it. Clap, clap. But anyway, so he's reasonably high profile. I would have thought as an ex-army guy, he would have been a shoo-in for something like this. But no, Rishi Sunak, in all his wisdom, has decided to give the job of Secretary of State for Defence for the protection of the United Kingdom to Grant Shapps. How about that? It's incredible, isn't it? Grant fucking Shapps. And the reason I say it's incredible is because in any other industry, in any other walk of life, tribe, company, group of people, circle of friends, in any other discipline, if you were a Grant Shapps man and you had lied about your name to people, you had used aliases, you'd said, oh yeah, what's up? Like, my name's Michael Green. Or, yeah, what's up? Yeah, my name's... No, I'm not Michael. I'm not Grant. I don't know what you're talking about. No, my name is Sebastian Fox. Like, or Natasha something. I can never remember the third one. But he had a whole slew of aliases that he was using for, like, which is kind of like, okay. Like, if you want to develop other identities for yourself, that's okay. You know, everyone loves a stage name. I'm not sure... You know, if I ever do come to write my autobiography, I may well do it under a pseudonym. I don't know. We'll see what embarrassing tales come out. But if you are an elected member of Parliament, if you are representing your constituents, if you harbour some aspiration to be taken as anything close to possessing credibility, integrity, why the fuck would you be running a web marketing agency / get rich scheme after you've become an MP? Like, you can't let that dream go. Is that the dream? Is it? That's the career goal. Oh, I can't let go of it. It's fucking amazing. Why would you have the aliases secretly running this thing after you become an MP? And then it gets revealed. It's an expose, and you're like, all right, you know, I've given it up. It's a bit like the Gareth Williamson thing, where it turned. Well, wasn't he still selling fireplaces or something? There's something around that, wasn't it? He's history now, though, isn't he? He's toast. Anyway, back to Grant Shapps. It's like in any other discipline, any other walk of life, if you were using aliases, if you were secretly running this other company and then you got found out, like I work for a software engineering thing, right? If it turned out I was running something else on the side, you know, a web marketing agency, let's say, a get rich quick scheme, for example, and I was using an alias, I would be frog marched out the fucking door. I really would be. It wouldn't even be a conversation about gross misconduct or conflict of interest. It would just be like, is this you, Aid? I'd be like, no. I mean, it looks like you. It looks like, look, it's even you in the video. Like, you're talking in the video. Is that a deep fake? I don't think so. So it's you then? Well, not really. No, I'm using a different name on there. Oh, well, that's way less dodgy now, isn't it? Is this what name are you using? Michael Green. Fuck it. Well, okay. Listen, Aid. You understand how weird this is, right? And how strange. Like, it's just not conducive with our corporate values. It's just not like you can't have like a secret. You're not fucking Bruce Wayne, all right? You're an elected member of Parliament, or you're a software engineer for this company. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just, in any other company, you'd be frog marched out the fucking door. But for some reason, in British politics, it's like a mixture of rewarding failure and a total vacuum of integrity. I mean, it's fine to have a second job. Fine, you know? I have a full-time job and then I do this in my spare time. I understand the whole, you know, side hustle, second job thing. Fine. But then when you talk about get-rich-quick schemes, then it gets a bit murky. And then when you talk about, like, layering, like, with the aliases on the top, then it's like, well, hang on, like, why would you be trying to hide that? Why don't you just declare it? Or, you know? And then you get into the thing of, like, well, which is the actual career goal? Why can't you just let that go? You're supposed to be a fucking public servant. People who go into politics are supposed to do it out of the goodness of their hearts. You know? For the public's good. That's what's so ridiculous about it. It's like, but the actual goal is the webmark. Oh, I just can't let it go, guys. Can't let it go. He's like a sort of, you know, an exhausted 37-year-old husband and father, right? And the wife is like, look, I understand. I understand that you want to be a pop star, Jeff. I do. I don't think you do. But it's just that, you know, me and the kids, we haven't seen you for 2 weeks now. Every night you're out at rehearsals or gigs or, you know, locking yourself away in the shed writing what you think is going to be like a new pop song or something. Can you just spend time with your family? Can you just let this go? No, I can't. I can't let my dream go. I can't. I've always wanted to be a pop star, Trish. I just want to be a pop star. You know, it's like, that's the dream. That's the thing he really... But there would be some integrity to that because, you know, who wouldn't want to be a pop star? God, I'm fucking rambling on. I'm going right off on a tangent here. Anyway, you get my point. And this is bizarre that Sunak has now put this cretin right up front and center. Like, it really does beg the question, I think. Like, if this is the guy that gets the job... Like, who was on the rejected list? That's always the thing that, like, if this is the guy, if this is the winner, the best candidate, they were like, oh, yeah, that guy, there. The weird alias marketing agency guy. Yeah, he's the best that we could find. Who the fuck was the worst? Who got rejected, and then as they were walking out of the door, they saw Grant Shapps on his way in, and they were like, oh, please, God, no. Like, I can handle it. I can handle it if I don't get the job. Like, if I'm not perfect for this job. But if you give it to Grant Shapps instead of me, I'm going to fucking kill myself. You know, it'd be like, it's like if you get dumped by your really beautiful girlfriend. It's like, that's hard, man. That's tough. I've been through that. And you think, God, I'm so brokenhearted and I just feel so worthless. But I can't hate her if she's not happy with me. You know, she doesn't owe me a relationship that she would be unhappy in. And so it's, you know, I guess it's just them's the breaks. You know, I just got to toughen up a bit. And I guess in time, you know, I can get over this. I still love her, but I've just got to let her go and handle it and be a man and have some dignity about it and just, you know. And then you see her walking in the pub with some, like, obese, like, bucktooth guy with a lazy eye and he's just, you know, dribbling all over himself. You know, and you're like, well, I'm better than that guy. Am I really, like, where do I sit on the pecking order? Am I really below that guy? It's very much the parliamentary recruitment equivalent of that humble pie. Or at least it would be if you lost out on the job to Grant fucking Shapps. I actually worried for a minute, like a few weeks ago, I worried that Sunak was going to make Grant Shapps the Home Secretary. And I really think that was the job that he was going for. Because he wrote a letter to Keir Starmer. And I think the letter, I'm going from memory here, I haven't got the details in front of me, but I think the letter was saying something along the lines of, will you be returning the donation money that you received from the guy who also funds Just Stop Oil? And the implication there is that Labour are being funded by, you know, they are the political wing of Just Stop Oil. That was, if it wasn't him that said that, like, that was the messaging that was coming out. Labour are the political wing of Just Stop Oil. Will you please return, or will you be returning the money that you got from blah, blah, blah? And I wondered if that was was that him pitching for the Home Secretary job? Talking about Just Stop Oil and, protest, and we've got to get a handle on it. Like, it's that sort of narrative you would expect from an aspiring Home Secretary, a culture warrior, if you like. Another Suella in waiting. And I also thought maybe he might put Shapps into the Home Secretary job because I remember that Rishi Sunak, it was never attributed properly, but I remember fucking reading this somewhere where he was like, oh God, that means I have to have Suella fucking Braverman. Like he had to give Suella a job or she was going to be this sort of thorn in his side. She would be this, culture war from the right of the party, causing him problems, privately briefing, like independent private source that's briefing against him in some of the, she would be a problem if she didn't give him if he didn't give her a job in his new cabinet. And I just wondered, if he did offboard her, then here's this guy, just in waiting, just pitching, just ready, talking about Just Stop Oil and protests and this, I worried that was where that was headed. But in a sort of bittersweet moment of, it's a good thing that he's not Home Secretary. But it's also not that good because Suella Braverman hasn't been removed from power. What a horrendous carry-on cast of utter cretins we now have in power. Sometimes, it all gets lost, doesn't it? In the mist. It's sort of, you get bombarded with different quotes and tweets that go viral and people fucking up and, silly, salacious little side stories and stuff. It's easy to forget just how fucked UK politics is sometimes. You look at the cabinet now. I mean, even so Rishi Sunak, front and centre, obviously. He's already embroiled in accusations that he has attempted to enrich his wife by making certain movements, financially, economically, that would then benefit his wife through the shares that she has with a childcare company, right? So he's grappling with that. Plus, you have the background of all of the Partygate stuff. He was also fined. He was given a fixed-term penalty notice alongside Boris Johnson. Nobody fucking talks about that shit. He's donated money to a US college while only donating a £10 bottle of wine to his local constituency school when they were trying to raise money. They can't afford books. They can't afford bog roll. Oh, don't worry about it. Here's a £10 bottle of Chablis. Hope that helps. What the fuck are we supposed to do with this? Crack open the top and sit it, empty the wine out and sit it under the leak in the terrapin roof. Thanks a lot, billionaire. So he's got that shit. He's got Partygate. He's got the donation stuff. He's got his green card, the residency thing. He's drenched in scandal. But for some reason, it never really, just sort of falls to the side. Well, what about the old interview where he says, I don't have any working class friends. Well, I have middle class friends. I have, privately educated. I also have working class. Well, probably not working class friends. I'm sorry, I misspoke. He's got that shit. He's a terrible prime minister. He can't think on his feet. He always seems flustered. And when once you get him over the bell curve of being flustered, he then gets tetchy. He's noticeably irritated by a Beth Rigby, by a Peston. When they ask him a question that he doesn't really like, he comes off as tetchy. So he's shit. Then you've got some of the old guard, the Team Johnson, so Nadine Dorries has just sort of, resigned in a hailstorm and, throwing this broadside at him, outwardly mocking him, you've achieved nothing. Nobody voted for you. You've got no mandate. So there's that. You've got your Lee Anderson, knuckle dragger, red wall types. Absolutely abysmal. High risk, low caliber. Who else have you got? You've got your Grant Shapps with a catalogue of fuckery behind him. I didn't even talk about the ULEZ thing. How Grant Shapps... So forget the alias stuff. Forget the web marketing agency. All of that stuff. Just think about this for a second. Grant Shapps was campaigning around Uxbridge knocking on doors, saying you should vote for the Conservative candidate in this area. Don't vote for Labour, because a vote for Labour is effectively a vote for Sadiq Khan's ULEZ extension. So don't vote Labour because that means ULEZ. Oh, we hate ULEZ. And then it came out a couple of days later, Grant Shapps was in contact with Sadiq Khan when Sadiq Khan was like, can I have some more money? Because Shapps was the Transport Secretary. Please, can I have some more money for this Transport Secretary? Because this is what we're trying. And Shapps said, I'll give you the funding if you expand the exclusion zone, right? So Shapps is like demanding the extension of a ULEZ type thing. And then he has the fucking gall to go out campaigning and going, oh, don't vote for Labour, because Labour is the party of the ULEZ extension that I personally made a condition of giving the extra funding to Sadiq Khan. Like, this is the calibre of cretin that we're dealing with. This is the sort of person that between that and between the aliases and between all the other, litany of ridiculousness to him, all of this stuff, this should preclude him from any consideration, any conversation about a promotion. This is the sort of behaviour and conduct that should end with somebody going, no, him. Are you fucking joking? You're not even joking, are you? You want to give the job to Grant Shapps? Do you need a CAT scan? What is wrong with you? That's where that conversation should start and end. But instead, where does it end? It actually ends with a Rishi Sunak going, yeah, so how does Secretary of Defence sound? Secretary of State for Defence. I can't talk. That's where it ends. With a ministerial car and a grace and favour property. Utterly abysmal. Who else have we got in the cabinet? Because it's not just them, is it? Therese Coffey. Therese fucking Coffey on TV advising about like Tory healthy eating policy, meanwhile getting pictured with a cigar and a fucking beef burger in hand. Or something. Well, it was something along those lines, wasn't it? And I remember like last time I saw her on like the breakfast rounds, like the morning interviews and stuff. I think it was Ridge. Sophie Ridge was interviewing her. And she asked her about Suella Braverman's speeding tickets. It was like right at the height of all of that stuff. The hysteria around... Well, it's not really hysteria. It was like righteous outrage about Suella Braverman. And she asks Therese Coffey about it. And Therese Coffey just completely like blanked the question and just went off on her own little... like monologue or something. And Sophie Ridge, who is a proven and highly regarded political interviewer, presenter, was speechless. Just for her to be speechless. Like, imagine what it would take to just make Peston or, Andrew Neil or someone just go, I'm sorry, I don't know what the fuck is happening here. Like, Did you not hear what I should... Like, it was the goal of it. So Therese Coffey is out. Wait, isn't she like... She's minister for, like, healthy water or, the waterways or something. And she's standing in front of the sea going like, yeah, check out our wonderful British... This is in the same week that Thames Water dumped a load of sewage. No reflection, no self-awareness from these people at all. How do these people ever... get hired, let alone, promoted into these positions? Who else have we got? Michael Gove is still knocking around the cabinet. Michael fucking Gove. We don't even need to touch on his involvement in the Brexit campaign. That should be career ending straight off the bat. How about we spool forward? How about we go way past all of that? And instead, we focus just on the fact you had a cabinet minister going AWOL, up to Scotland, getting off his tits, which, look, I'm not one to judge. If you want to have a good time, have a good time. But maybe don't do it when you're an elected member of parliament, is all I'm saying. He's up there in some late night, 2 a.m. nightclub, dancing his arse off. Was he on drugs? I don't know. I'm not going to throw any allegations like that around. It would be a tragedy if I just clung onto my house through the remortgage only to lose it through a legal action. But I'm just saying it's slightly weird that an elected member of parliament and cabinet minister was in a nightclub at 2 a.m. surrounded by students, seemingly having a good time. In varying states of sobriety, let's say. Only to then, within 2 weeks, 3 weeks, something like that, come back onto the breakfast sofas and start moralising over the young people today who dare to use nitrous oxide. Well, I think the government policy on balloons, on NOS canisters, is probably about right. I think they're a gateway drug. They might lead to harmful substances. Harmful substances like what, Michael? What substances specifically do you think might be problematic? Well, I don't know. What gateway drug was it that allowed you to start dabbling in? I can't even say it, can I? But we all know what I'm about to say. We all know the rumours. We've all heard those rumours about Michael Gove, haven't we? And, wondered how true they might be when we watch him on the breakfast sofas doing that. What was that interview he did? Where it was like, wasn't he doing like an impression of like a Scouser or something, like going like, all right, calm down then. He was like sort of bobbling around from side. Everyone was like, is he on crack? It was honestly, it was the most relatable he's ever been. I'm not wishing to sort of trivialize or, make fun of people's, various challenges that they might be going through. Substance related or divorce related or whatever. But I'm just saying, he appeared to be a little bit more relatable then. What the fuck am I talking about here, guys? It's an emergency podcast. It's not that prepared. Forgive me. I guess what I'm saying here is that the UK government cabinet are extreme in their low bar, low caliber, hugely disappointing, laughably unqualified status. And I'm not entirely surprised that somebody like Grant Shapps, who has bounced around different ministerial positions for, the last 2-3 years? He was Home Secretary for fucking a few days, was it? And then he was made this, and then that ended. And I think it was Ian Dunt who said earlier, he said, can we stop suggesting that his experiences within Parliament over the last 3 years have given him a sort of rounded experience? It's utterly fucking ludicrous. He doesn't have experience in defence. We know that because even Marc Francois, who on a good day can just about string together a sentence between his 3 remaining brain cells, if he's not distracted by a Spitfire somewhere. If someone doesn't lead him up a garden path, like with a trail of World War II artillery or something, even Marc Francois, who is not the greatest mind of the Conservative Party, even he is just like, well, you know what? Old Shapps boy, he's a bright one, he is, but it's, he's gonna need to learn quickly. Actually, I love the quote from Marc Francois. He said he's gonna need to bring up the speed really, really quickly. That's word for word what Marc Francois said. He said he's a bright chap, Shapps, but he's gonna need to bring up the speed pretty quickly. I don't know if there's ever been a quote before from a parliamentarian that has both criticised the intelligence or ability of someone else and perfectly illustrated the lack of intelligence and ability of the person saying it. I think we've broken new ground today, Mark. Fucking well done. Well done, old son. I mean, I suppose really, I think Marc Francois has he's been given a brief of the forces. He's not, Secretary of State for the Armed Forces, but I think he's a minister of or for the armed forces. But we should be grateful to some extent that people like Mark Francois are not being given the big jobs, are they? You're not seeing a Mark Francois promoted today. You're not seeing Lee Anderson taken out of that chair role and then pushed into, like, you know, Secretary of State for Home Affairs or anything. It's you know, he hasn't got rid of Suella Braverman, which I'm a bit disappointed about, but he hasn't brought even worse people in, if you make the exception of Grant Shapps. I wonder who's the Secretary of State for Education now, because they must be having a rough fucking day. They really must, because I don't know if you've seen this in the news this afternoon. I'm going to quickly look up who it is. Secretary of State. It's Gillian Keegan. Okay, there you go. But news broke on the BBC website and Sky News earlier that around 150, maybe 200 schools in England, not in the wider United Kingdom, just in England, around 200 schools are going to close. They're going to be forced to close next week, just when all the kids' parents thought they were just going to go, like, okay, like I can handle 6 weeks with my kids. I can just about take that. Oh God, we've been away on holiday and that sort of broke it up a little bit. And then we had your mother come and stay with us. And, that was fucking awful. But okay, fine. We're just at the last hurdle now, 5.5 weeks in, but finally I can just propel you back through the school gates and finally regain my sanity. And then this notif comes through, this push notification from the BBC News, and it's like 150 schools are expected to be forced to close next week as crumbling infrastructure impacts education. It's like, basically what's happened is these schools were built with a certain type of concrete, and this concrete is now going end of life. Like, it can no longer be insured if these walls were built with a certain type of concrete. And they've identified about 150 to 200 schools in England that are in this sort of time bracket and were built with this specific type of concrete. And now through health and safety, they're now, contacting the schools, and they're going, have you got any spare terrapins? You got any spare capacity in your way over capacity school that we haven't given you any budget increases for like 13 years? Have you got a spare secret classroom out the back that you could just, meet out the pupils a little bit? No, we don't. Oh, right, okay. Then you're going to have to close until we rebuild the classrooms. You have your fucking mind. How many parents are going to kill themselves next week? Is there's the push notification I want to see. Is the Samaritan's prediction for how bad the suicide rate's going to get when 25 million parents are told, yeah, your kids are going to have to learn online again. Your kids have been driving you crazy for 6 weeks. Remember how bad it was in the pandemic when you were all locked in together? Do you remember how badly you drank by 2 p.m. every day? Well, here's the sequel. Like, that's basically where we're headed. Like, next week. Unless someone comes up with some quick-fire solution. And really, this is indicative of Tory Britain. I've been saying this for a while, like, about the collapse of civilization, about the collapse of society. I usually talk about it in the context of the expiration of fossil fuels. Like, what's going to happen when the oil runs out. But it could just as easily happen through, debt. The national debt. Like how most of your tax money doesn't even go towards schools and roads and all the rest of it. It actually goes towards servicing debt, where the government have borrowed money and they have to pay that back. And now they have to, if they want to borrow more money, they have to pay it back at a worse interest rate because Kwarteng and Truss fucked the economy last year. So more and more of your money goes to, and basically the point I'm getting to here is that as we pay more of our money towards servicing debt and less of our money towards hospitals and schools what you're going to start to see is the sort of decline of the United Kingdom, the sort of collapse of our way of life, which sounds really dramatic. But what I mean is, like, it's not going to happen in a big bang. It's not going to, like, the collapse of Great Britain is not going to happen like, bang, like, oh, shit, who did that? Oh, it was the Tories. Right, that's it. Haul them out here. Let's Gaddafi these motherfuckers. Like, it's not going to be like that. It's going to be slow and gradual. It's going to be a sort of glacial exercise of decline and just a slow movement towards hospitals no longer being fit for purpose, towards schools that were built with hugely out-of-date materials that were probably supplied by a fucking donor on the like brown envelope thing. Oh, yeah, matey boy over here, yeah, he donated last year, but he reckons he can get us some, like, knockoff, like, fucking breeze blocks or something. Yeah, just give the contract to him, it's fine. We'll be out of power by the time the shit hits the fan. And even when the shit hits the fan, it's a dodgy old fan that a different donor gave us. It doesn't even work, so it's fine. The shit won't go anywhere. It'll just go all around the fan. By that point, it'll be Labour's fan. Labour will be running this office with their shitty fans. Who gives a fuck? Sign here. Anyway, my point is, all of these infrastructure-related buildings, the schools, the hospitals, the Department for Transport and the Department for Education and the Civil Service, and all of these government-funded, public-funded institutions and industries will just very, very gradually be starved of funding, and they will no longer be able to pay their bills, so their electricity will have to be turned off like 1 day a week. And then 1 day a week will become 2 days a week. And then the schools will only operate from, Monday to Thursday. And hospitals will stop doing this type of operation. And just very slowly, services will become no longer fit for purpose. And local buses won't run any longer. And do you know what I mean? Like, it won't be a big bang that shuts down the country. It will be a slow, decade-long winding down of essential public services, medications, education, provisions, support like phone lines. The HMRC won't get back to you as quickly. Do you know what I mean? And what's going to happen at the end of that decade is that, by that point, Labour will have been in power for 7 years, let's say, by then. And here's my fear, right, is that the Tories have left the economy in such a state that now, Labour will probably, in some capacity, get into government next general election. But people have got really short memories and a lot of hope, and they're hurting. And this is my fear, guys, is that Labour will get in, and then after 3 years of being in, everyone's just going to go well, this is really shit. Everything's getting worse, man. Everything. And people like me will be like, yeah, because you fucking let the Tories run amok for 13 years. This is how bad they got it. It's going to take so long to repair the damage. But people are going to be like, well, I voted Labour because I thought they were going to fix everything. I thought they were much better than the Tories. But I'll tell you what, mate, it's just as bad. In fact, if anything, it's gotten worse. They've shut this hospital. They've shut this walk-in clinic. They haven't reopened all the domestic violence shelters. And then they'll vote the Tories back. Because, what is more comforting to an everyday cretin, right? What is more comforting? Me telling them that things are actually really fucking bad. Things are really serious. And it could take 15, 20 years to repair the damage that the Tories have just inflicted. It really could take a generation to turn it all around. Do they want to hear that story? Or do they want to hear the one where, it'll be a 40-year-old Conservative MP? He's the bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, fresh face of the Conservative. He's a modern Conservative, this guy. He's in touch with the environment. He cares about women. He cares about trans rights. He's a modern Tory, guys. It's not like those old stuffy Tories. He's not corrupt. He's a good egg. this one. Look at him. He's on the Jonathan Ross show. He's laughing. He's having a joke. He's just like you. You know, it'll be something like that. And then when this guy, or could be a woman, stands up behind the podium and says, it doesn't have to be this way. Vote for the new Conservatives. You know, people will run to that story. Do you think that everyday cretin wants to hear my story where it's like, things are really fucking hard and it's going to take years yet to turn it around? Or do they want to listen to this guy? This populist, probably good-looking, full head of hair, husky, hugger. It's going to be David Cameron all over again. And that is my fear. Guys, I'm going to have to leave it there for this emergency podcast. Thank you so much for listening. I will be back tomorrow night. That's Friday the 1st. My guest is Rufus Hound. I'm very excited to have him on. If you are in a position to support the podcast, do consider jumping on patreon.com/Aid Thompson with an IN on the end. If you are also in London, guys, if you're around London, why not come to the live show, man? We're doing it's live comedy, going to be some games. I've got Otto English coming down, Ashley Hayden, John Left of the Countryside. That's on the 28th of September at the book club in Shoreditch. So that's going to be lots of fun. I'm also appearing at the Riot Society on the 10th of November. Until next time, take care of yourselves, keep it booge, and #Bimpfluencer, and I'm out this motherfucker.